supply of, as prices go up, real wage went up, supply of labor. Labor supply is basically us, we are workers. And labor demand was employers. So labor demand was employers demanding workers. Oh, sorry. That diagram's gone, forget it. So labor supply is us, we are workers. And so the supply siders woke this up and they put in income taxes. And again, repeating myself, they're temporary. No, so here we are, folks. And so with income tax cuts, labor supply increases, and they are treated as temporary. And so that the Megan situation does not happen. There's no Megan effect. See, I've immortalized you, Megan. So from now on. So basically, you're thinking, no, these tax cuts are only around for a couple of years. I'm going to schlep out there and work now. Very controversial, as you heard from Sarah. But nevertheless, this is the model. And also, as long-term macro outlook increases, gets better, labor supply increases. So the future looks better, and vice versa. The future looks better, and you're going, I'm going to schlep out there. Economy's picking up. COVID's over. I'm going to schlep out there. So store this away, and let me show you deregulation and productivity for the very first time in this course. And the whole innovation thing. Netscape browser. Yeah, maybe.
Well, like when the as outlook gets better, you'd be less stressed about working. So wouldn't you just like chill? Like I don't. That's the negative effect. I know. I'm confused.
The supply side model is just not getting any traction with Megan, it looks like.
She's a team.
Yeah, she and
I don't know.
Dave has disappeared. He's not even come back. He's so disgusted. He's out there in that bar and grill down below.
I think of it not like, oh, you go get a 9 to 5. I think of it as like, oh, a stay-at-home mom like makes an Etsy shop because like now she has like disposable income from her husband's job to like buy fabric. Like I think of it that way because I think it's too confusing the other way.
Okay, that's great. That helps.
Did you get that? I didn't understand that.
I said when you say like
Long-term macro outlook. So the future's looking great. The economy is recovering. Okay, now what?
right, instead of thinking of it like a stay-at-home mom goes and gets a 9 to 5, instead she has more disposable income from her husband's job because it's a good outlook. So she takes that money and she starts like a side business crafting thing because they have more money to play with. So she's like, oh, like I'll buy some things and I'll fill my time with like a side hobby that I can like make a few dollars off of. Whereas she wouldn't risk spending the money.
Sure.
On other
So you see what's happening here, Megan? The story isn't the thing. This goes back to my conversation with Sarah. And then Milton Friedman said, the story isn't it. Is that model replicating what we see? Because you have that story, then you've got the other story. This is macro. There are 200 different kinds of stories all melting together. So let's put this together. The third step, so supply side economics, stay with me now. Supply side model. And 3 steps to the supply side model. Business tax cuts. Income tax cuts. And here is the third controversial one, deregulation. Removing, this is the button that Trump pressed and made a big deal of, removing intrusive. And Obama went crazy with this regulation after the subprime crisis and after Enron. So, removing intrusive government regulation. And this is supposed to lead to very controversial an increase in productivity. More IPOs, Boom. And this ecosystem is eventually supposed to lead to an explosion in innovation. So give the companies, give mom and pop, give innovators back their money with tax cuts, leave them alone, let them hire and fire workers, let them buy and sell, get off their backs, and sit back and hope that that's the ecosystem that, boom, you get Netscape browser and Google and you get the internet. The big one, the big one was there. So let's see what this looks like. Let's look at 3, deregulation, very controversial. And you will see Modi in India tried some of this. He was the Reagan of South Asia for a while, and we will see how that did work, didn't work. Can I erase this?
Professor, wasn't the Operation Warp Speed part of deregulation though too? Because we got all the FDA tags and hurdles moved out of the way as well though.
That was also that and good G, if you will. So the combination of that and good G. Yes, yes. So Dan is the supply side.
Yes.
See, Langdana can easily pick up. I'll never forget. Remember, there are 2 kinds of people in the world: those who look like this, and those who look like this. I'll never forget, I was checking out, I was in Shanghai or Beijing, and one of my Danish students was also checking out. He was going through customs, immigration, like 3 tables down. I look like there I see him. I go, hey, Langdana. And he goes, which one are you? And I'm like, what? And all the security are looking, you secret signal? I think something going to explode any second now. And I'm like, calm down. Just calm down. Okay, so let's do deregulation. Very controversial. People jumped on me. Was afraid to do it. So here we are. This is what's supposed to happen with deregulation. And if you look at what Modi tried to with agriculture, and what Biden may be trying to, here is what deregulation looks like. Here's the production function. Here's N0. This is Y0. This is the production function. And now you start unleashing this economy, deregulating it. So please understand, the big deregulation interestingly began with Jimmy Carter, not Ronald Reagan. Jimmy Carter also brought in Paul Volcker, not Ronald Reagan. So Jimmy Carter began the deregulation, then Reagan unleashed it fully. So any airline can fly to any city at any price, at any time. Before that, it was all regulated. Banks don't just have to pay 5.25%. They can pay any interest on savings, depending on the market. Deregulated the money supply. Trucking, deregulated trucking. Financial services. Savings and loans failed, as we will see. So what's going to happen is supposed to increase productivity. Productivity looks like this. This is increase in productivity. So productivity is output per unit labor per hour. And so the internet happened. Look at this. This is called an increase in productivity, a positive productivity shock. So look at this, N0 workers were making Y0, and now Y higher. So the same N0 workers, so now same N0 workers can produce more, can do more. And so this increase in productivity, very controversial, is getting government off your back, making it easier to hire and fire workers and so on, stay on late, work on Sundays, open on Sundays, Saturdays, is supposed to lead to explosion in innovation. You're going to get the next post-lithium battery. And so here we are, this baby, this is innovation. And so that's what is supposed to happen. The negative holds true, a productivity shock. So negative, so productivity shock. So let's say oil shock. And look what happens in an oil shock, guys. Productivity falls. The same N0 workers, now what's happening here? Come on.
Do less.
Yeah, because now the same workers, now why lower? Because now you're gone from oil, which is the first choice, to artificial, to synthetic fuel, to solar, to electric, whatever. So wind, so they're clearly not the first choice. Productivity. Earthquake, 9/11, Katrina. So there you have. So let's put this all together and let me show you supply side economics. Can I erase this? So where is this big dance, this ball of yours? Where is it happening?
In Somerset? Somerset, New Jersey?
Yeah. Where in Somerset? I can't just wander around.
We're just gonna be in Somerset. Is that the Imperial?
Alright, so let's put this together. Very elegant, folks. Like I said, all that stuff in chapter 10, and since the Great Depression, chapter 9, you will not find in any other book, by the way. So, 4 diagrams, behold supply side economics. Here we are. Firewall. Production function, N0, labor demand, labor supply, W0, P0, N0, Y0, Y reflector, PY space, so Y0, Y0, rational expectations or new classical aggregate supply curve, AD0, firewall here, P0, Y0. So this is the supply side world. So Dan, for you, when you're banging out your analysis, this is your world. And for all you other supply siders too. Well, see, back in the day, but I'm very careful now, because so what happened is back in the day, people would go, I'm a supply sider, but I'm a compassionate supply sider, because we will see there's no G here. So I'm a compassion, or those I'm a Keynesian, but I only believe in good G. So you're getting into all those things. These are such beautiful notes. You got your own key there?
I do.
Ah, left-handed too.
Yep.
The left-handers recognize left-handers right away. So here we are, let's do this. 3 things. Income tax cuts. So personal tax cuts. Business tax cuts. And deregulation leading to an increase in productivity and innovation. So let's do income tax cuts and try not to look at the textbook. So we are cutting income taxes from 38% to 22%. Come on, Mitya, help me here. Sneha, help me. Greg.
Supply of labor.
Thank you. We're cutting taxes, and again, the assumption here is it's temporary. So you want to schlep out there, make, you want to work, and then later on when taxes go up, you can hang back at home. The heck with it. So you want to make hay while the sun shines. So here we are. Participation rate, make a note, gone up. Women exploded into the workforce. So this is income taxes. All right, so now let's look at business taxes. And this is, so Sarah, for you, what I'm showing is the theory, which Trump didn't happen. I'm going to take you there today or tomorrow. What? Oh. Anushri would be here tomorrow.
I will.
See? Next week. Come on, guys. Show me income taxes. What? Labor demand, I'm sorry, the corporate tax cuts. Thank you. And so here we are. Companies will go, let's hire MBAs and let's make hay while the sun shines. Because it's temporary. So they are business tax cuts. This is N hire. This is 1. This is 2. And show me deregulation. You're deregulating and to increase productivity. And Dr. Victoria, that this deregulation and productivity increase. So we have this mini MBA certificate program for healthcare at St. Peter's and so on. And so that's the big focus now for hospitals, how to increase productivity, how to use technology. And again, so much of the information is proprietary. The hospitals networks don't share this medical information. It's very hard. But that third step I'm about to show you, there's a whole burgeoning amount of literature on applying supply-side economics to healthcare. And I'm going to show you that's going to bring costs down. So just as an aside. So come on, show me here. Thank you. So deregulation is supposed to increase. This is now deregulation. And again, keep in mind, listen carefully, we are not throwing all the regulation out. We are keeping the good regulation. No, you cannot dig oil wells in national parks. No, you cannot cut down every tree in the rainforests. So we're not talking all regulations. So people who don't like this course, they're going for, oh, come on. We need regulation. Yes, of course we do. This is the regulation that says, no, you cannot fire people when the economy is bad. No, you cannot. In Europe, by the way, in Europe, to fire people, your workers, you need permission of the workers. And then, if you override them, they can go to a higher authority and reinstate the workers as late as 2 years after you lay them off. In Europe, if I want to put this on sale, and I'm making it, I need permission. If I want to stay open till 9 o'clock tonight instead of 6 o'clock, I need permission. So talk of intrusive regulation, not just carte blanche regulation. So here we are, this is step 3. So here we go, here we are, look at this, N higher. Look at this, Y higher, because of deregulation, increase in productivity. And again, when I used to be going all over the country, mom and pop America would jump on me. Like they've got deregulation. Langdana, are you kidding me? Deregulate the suits on Wall Street? Are you kidding? They're a bunch of crooks. They need to be watched like hawks. We'll keep an eye on them. Look, excuse me, Langdana, subprime crisis mean anything to you? What happened then? What they did then? Hello? So, cut taxes? Are you kidding me? GE paid 0 taxes last year. Cut from what? And so, this is a thorny issue here. So here we go, and watch carefully, and Dr. Victoria, this is what healthcare is trying to do. Here we go, Y higher, and look what happens to the inflation rate. Prices go down here. So here we are, P lower. And please understand, this is not deflation like in the Great Depression, this is disinflation. So P0 could be, say, e.g. 1%. Prices are still growing, but growing by less. So that's disinflation. Please understand the difference between deflation and disinflation. P0 is, say, 3%. So prices are still growing, but growing by less. Deflation is prices are falling, negative. You get that? You got that, everyone? Deflation is horrible because once prices start actually falling, turning negative, consumption shuts down. You are going to postpone buying anything. Well, let me wait. New car? Let's wait. Another 6 months, prices will be lower. So here we are. So you got growth without inflation. Phillips curve, gone. Here, Y goes up, P goes down. And these guys go, this was the dot-com economy. This is the internet. If America was growing at 8, 9%, inflation was down to 1%. In the Keynesian model, high growth would be tied to P high. It was pro-cyclical inflation. Remember that? Pro-cyclical. Y would go up and P would go up. Here, counter-cyclical. Y went up, P went down. Healthcare costs will decrease if we can deploy and unleash the supply side of healthcare, increase the productivity in healthcare, deploy apps, have better outpatient treatment, prevent 5% of Americans from doing 50% on medical health, expenses. You've seen all the repeat customers, all those horrible statistics. Questions, comments?
Did you intend for wages
Wow,
to stay the same?
thank you. Thank you. So please, thanks Sarah, you spotted it. So this, Langdana is being deliberately coy. I've kind of left it the same. We don't know. What's supposed to happen to real wages? There's a whole cottage industry out there trying to analyze this. Did real wages go up or down? We don't know, because what happens is people are comparing, look, supply side happened, but now husbands and wives or partners, they both have to go to work. Gone is what our grandparents used to do, when one worked, one stayed at home. Now they both have to work. So real wages must have gone down. Well, the response to that is, yeah. But now you have a bigger house, you got 5-car garage, you got your kids, the kids' room is like bigger than an auditorium, so you better schlep out there if you want all that. So it's not clear. Sarah, are healthcare benefits included in the real wage? Are they not? Prescription included, so it's I don't know, it's ambiguous, it's unclear. So this was Reaganomics. Margaret Thatcher, Suleiman the Magnificent. Do we have Turks here? Any Turks? Suleiman the Magnificent, that's his model. Emperor Vespasian, do we have Romans here? Italians. That was his model. Less government. Non-intrusive.
What does it say under P lower?
Oh, it's for example 1%. So I just say, Nick, the thing is, there is inflation. Prices are growing, but growing by less. So I said that's called disinflation, not deflation.
So what happens once taxes again go up, like right?
So let's so we'll talk about that. There you go. Nice and clean. Look at this. Let's look at policy now. It's a vertical curve. You're actually shifting the curve out, which is what the supply siders couldn't show. I mean, what this classical economists did not show. They just said Y0 was the natural rate. These guys moved it out. Any questions about what I have on board? Like it, don't like it, you bothered? Matt, what's wrong? No? Not really. You're with the whole Dave is influenced back there. You know? The circle of Keynesian energy coming out of Dave. You live in Princeton? I know that Sarah's gone. She lives in Princeton, so you've gone.
I grew up there. I didn't attend.
But you drank the Kool-Aid.
We'll talk after.
So you're taking turmoil now. You're not sure is what's happening.
No, I'm a Keynesian.
Oh,
Just making you think.
so here we are, folks, and let's now look at the policies. But there's no, as you will see, no G here, no M here, or did they really mean it? Any comments about this? Anything here? Okay. So here we are. You will see that now that we are in here, look at this. It's a vertical aggregate supply curve. Rational expectations, aggregate supply. Here's aggregate demand. And I'll show you IS, LM in this. But you tell me, folks, in your mind, can you do it virtually? IS and LM. Can you virtually do this? What would happen in this world if you did G or M in that world? What would happen? You did government spending and you did M.
Inflation will increase.
Thank you, Pooja. So, yes, little, you would get this, increase in G, increase in M, and you only get inflation. Remember I showed you this when we were in the Eurozone, remember that? And so you only get more inflation with G and M. No change in output. So they're going, stop doing G, no M. What did you do with this QE? No wonder the economy didn't pick up with QE. Look at Japan. What are they doing printing money? No, they need to deregulate. And this is a hard model. When you say deregulate, it means if the company is sick, let it die. If the sector is drowning, let it drown. Adam Smith, let the invisible hand rule. Back off. And so what you have here is no change in output or jobs. So there's no G or M here. It's low taxes, less role for government, deregulation. And Reagan, he was a whimsical guy. So Reagan used to famously say the most terrifying language, the most terrifying sentence in the English language is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. He had all these Lincoln-esque kind of folksy sayings. He also cut G. So he cut school lunches, it's true. He cut the veggies from school lunches. And they said, Mr. President, you cut the veggies. And he said, no, ketchup. Ketchup's a vegetable. So yeah, he was whimsical. Ketchup's probably a vegetable. Okay, let's see the, yeah.
So, how do we think about the confidence consumer?
Wow, louder.
I was just asking how do I think about the
C-bar.
C-bar and there you go, I-bar.
Can you show me where do you think confidence would come in here? Long-term macro outlook.
Isn't C-bar a function of that?
Wow. But here we have it. These two babies have long-term macro outlook. That's our C-bar. It's not C-bar, but it's a C-bar on steroids. So basically it's C-bar in the future. So you're thinking, aha, economy is going to improve, my C-bar is going up now. So, and this here is an increase in the participation rate. So C-bar is in the labor market. Anything else? Okay, let's do paradigm shift number 2, the great stagflation. Okay. If you were to do your MBA at Chicago, University of, you would have spent your whole semester on this. By the way, all semester on this. It would probably be Keynes would be an aside. Okay, so just as an FYI. Which should have been awkward because Biden is a high priest supply side. High priest Keynesian. One comment I want to make before we look at the great stagflation. Please look at this, a very important comment. So I showed you this. Here we did this, and we did this, and that, and that. And so I showed you the supply side shift. Please understand that this supply side story also works for emerging economies to some extent. Very important point. Also for emerging economies, but to a lesser extent. And I'll tell you why lesser extent. And so emerging economies, what do they look like? Come on folks, what's their aggregate supply like? Keynesian. So this is India, China, Argentina, Brazil, Nigeria, take your pick, etc. So P0, Y0, and so please understand that this story here with deregulation, you can also try to do this. And this comes from, first, for emerging economies, the first thing is, for emerging economies, even before you deregulate, the first thing is privatization. So SOEs, gone are the SOEs, privatization. Fewer SOEs. What is an SOE?
State-owned enterprise.
State-owned enterprises. So here you are, privatization, and then deregulation, and then increase in productivity. So China was trying to privatize 3 out of 5 SOEs with Zhu Rongji. India tried to do this, it's doing it with airports, Air India recently. What else? Banking to some extent. So private agriculture, trying to remove regulations from agriculture, that didn't work. Mexico, major deregulation, privatization some years ago. So this is the story. So the emerging economies can do this, but it's lesser extent, and Y higher and P lower. And why is it at a lesser extent? Can anyone guess? Why is why is this shift in aggregate supply harder in a transition economy or an emerging economy? Yeah, because keep in mind, the government owns many of these sectors, and so when you privatize, you lose control. Remember, you have this large steel sector, or metallurgy, or shipbuilding, and you keep them large because they're all going to vote for you. That's your base. There's overemployment, and so suddenly you're losing your control. So it's harder to do. You're relinquishing control from the center, the government, to the private sector. In China, many of the SOEs were owned by the army. So, you have the sort of tug of war between the armed forces, who own many of the SOEs, and the central government. In India, 2-3 large families own large sectors of the economy. And so it's harder to do. It's very episodic. It's harder to do. But nevertheless, that's what it looks. So they can have a supply side type of policy, but it's not continuous like it's in the case of the Okay, paradigm shift number 2, the great stagflation. Why do I put the great in there? What does that mean? When I put great, what's that? Global, yeah. Remember I told you about this?
When they don't understand what's going on.
Wow. Twinkle. Louder, please.
I was just saying, when they don't understand what's
When
going on.
economists have no idea what happened, they throw a great in there to imply that it's beyond human capability. Every time there's a major meltdown, throw in a great. Dr. Victoria, you should do that in the hospital. That was the great heart attack. Couldn't have been that.
Questions are dramatic enough, I don't need to answer.
Oh, I can only imagine the drama.
Well, at some point, you can't care more about saving someone's life than they do.
Oh, by the way, I loved your write-up. Thank you. It was very poignant. Excuse me, I have seen my share of drama too. By the way, here is a quick one for you. I'm talking to my students about the euro and the dollar, in the break, macro. Somebody comes up to me and goes, Farooq, it's happening again. I said, what? The strawberries are touching the other fruits. And I went, I figured that was a bad thing. So I said, oh man. So now, so why exactly is that bad? And I said, I told you he would go into a spasm, some allergy. So he would collapse. Dr. Victoria, have you heard of these things? So, whatever. So basically, yeah, and so I said, okay. And so I used my immense powers for 2 years. I banned strawberries. No strawberries on the menu in the executive MBA program. This is the kind of drama I deal with. Victoria's going, oh my God, that is not the drama that she deals with. So here we are, the great stagflation. Stay with me now. Here we go. Model they thought they were in, now it's 1973. And October is coming. And Dagan knows what I'm going to talk about. Solomon? Yeah. Solomon, can you imagine this whole week? the drama, speaking of drama, this whole week, that Jesus shows up on Sunday, right? Yes, no? Yeah. And seriously, I didn't realize till recently, this is the week when he has the temper tantrum in the temple. He overturns the tables. It's this week. I didn't know that. And he comes on a donkey, white donkey, from the east gate as predicted. So he was setting up for a confrontation. He wanted to debate the high priests, and they were not debating him. So he has a temper tantrum. Can you imagine the day by day? Wow. Anyway, let me power back up. I can't even imagine how that week must have been. So here we are, model they thought they were in. Okay, which model? Don't look at the book. And here we are, actual model after the paradigm shift. And poor Jimmy Carter. Here we go, actual model after the paradigm shift. So here's 1970, 70. Let's go with that. Which model are they in? The Keynesian model. So here we are, Keynesian aggregate supply. Here's aggregate demand. Here is P0, and here is Y low. So they grew up on this model. This is the model Keynes taught them. They grew up on it. So you guys walk me through. Please don't look at the book. What do you think they did? Come on, what would you do? You're Keynesian. Elena, help me here. Yeah, so diagrammatically? Yeah, thank you. So here they are, step one. They increase G, they increase M, like they always did for the last 30 years. And they thought, fine, we'll get the Phillips curve, we'll get P to P1, and we'll get Y1. But the model had changed. The paradigm, information had become symmetric after running it into the ground. So here we are. Here's rational expectations, aggregate supply. Here is AD 0. This is AD 0. Here is P0. Here is Y low. And what actually happened? Yes.
Inflation.
And so they only got inflation. This is AD1. And there was consternation as to what? Only inflation. But they're not looking at this. Remember, they can only see this. They cannot see this. No change in output. So, and this was mystifying because their whole lives they'd grown up in this Phillips curve where inflation goes up and unemployment goes down, or jobs go up, output goes up. Suddenly, that didn't happen. They only got inflation. So what do you think they did? Come on, Greg, help me here.
Did more?
They did more. Thanks, Nick. And so, maybe we didn't do it enough. Let's kind of leave the G and M on. Let's come back tomorrow. Let's run the machine, let the machine run, and we will finally get our Y2. No. They own, this is 82. They got even more inflation. So now we are in double-digit inflation. This was more M and G. So that they confounded. It's how can this be happening? What are we doing wrong here? This has worked since the 1940s. Remember, paradigm shift is extremely dangerous and detrimental and frustrating because you haven't realized that it's not an Italian restaurant anymore. It's now become an Indian restaurant. And you're still ordering lasagna. It's not working out. And so what happens next? So here comes October 1973. The world changed. Here we are. Yom Kippur War. So what happened then? Okay.
Israel was attacked by all the borders in parallel, and I mean they kind of like it was after the 6-Day War, which happened in '67, and then in '73 the war was really up because Israel had a lot of achievements, and then they kind of like threat to attack Israel during the period of time before the war, and every time it looked like they are going to attack, and then they didn't. And then eventually Yom Kippur arrived, which is the day that everyone is fasting.
Right,
so
it's the holiest day in the
it's
Jewish
holiest
calendar.
day in the Jewish calendar, so there is no communication, no TV, no radio. And then everyone attacked from all the borders, 7 countries.
7 countries. So keep in mind, 67, Israel takes out 7 countries in 6 days. So their C-bar is low, morale is low, they've been insulted. Then Yom Kippur, 1973, 7 countries attacked, complete intelligence failure. Yeah, there were these false starts, so everyone was fooled. So Syrian tanks pour over the Golan Heights, T-55s, reached 7 Syrian tanks per 1 Israeli tank. Egyptians surge over the Suez Canal. The country is about to go. We lose air superiority, the Americans and the Israelis, because the Russians have these SAM-6s, SAM-7s. So suddenly the Russian missiles are knocking out our F-4 Phantoms out of the sky. Boom, 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 boom. Mirages out of the sky. We lost air superiority. Thing was hanging by a thread. So Nixon sends arms, and there's a last-minute commando operation, which they forget his name who launched it. Anyway, there's a ceasefire barely in time, but the OPEC countries refuse to send oil, and monster oil shock, because we supported Israel. There's a massive oil shock, and so and then in 1979, Iran crisis, revolution in Iran. The Shah is overturned. Bless Jimmy Carter, God bless him. He says, the Shah is my buddy. He can hang out here. So he invites the Shah of Iran here, and everyone goes, oh my gosh, and so we got nailed again. And so, whoa. And so what happens when you go down? What happens to that aggregate supply curve? Which way does it move? To the left. And so here we are, the 2 oil shocks, let's combine them. This is 73, this is 79, like bang, bang, and wow, look at this. 2 oil shocks. And look at the speed even higher. And here we go. Or actually you can do this. Let's take it up like that. Y lower, and P even higher. So let's take it up all the way over. So wham! So you can have Y lower, so output actually fell. Look at this. In reality, bang! So we have Y even lower, and this is 2 oil shocks. And P higher, and that is stagflation. So stagflation is high inflation with stagnant output or low output. And so stagflation This is paradigm shift stagflation. So here we go. And so Jimmy Carter and his team are looking at this going, what exactly happened here? And clearly M&G was not working. We were in this world here, and it's 1980, and all these models came out of Chicago and Rochester, disciples of Milton Friedman, Rutgers' greatest product, who had told us in the 60s that this baby is not going to last. It's going to be like this. He predicted this. He told us earlier. And so they came up with this world, and Ronald Reagan was an instant convert. And he sold it to the American public in 6 months, and we said, Keynes is dead, because supply siders are very snarky people. You know, they go around making these snarky, in-your-face comments. So they were like, Keynes is dead, you Keynesians go back to Princeton, wear your tweed jackets, and hang out down there. And Keynesians are very polite, gentle. Like I said, every Keynesian I've met, economist, has about to cry. They look like they're just about to weep. The weepy people, you know. And so Keynesians would be like, do we talk to you like that? Then the supply side. Is there any reason to be rude? Do we put you down? We can talk like adults. There's no reason to be rude. And so supply side says, Keynes is dead, go back to Princeton or Harvard, wherever you came, eat your ice cream there. And so here you go. And paradigm died. Reagan sold it. It's boring in America. Shining city on the hill. Launched the supply side paradigm. And we will see that, keep in mind, repeating myself, the deregulation was begun by Jimmy Carter. Finally, Jimmy Carter got that this was not working, and M was shut down. Paul Volcker came in and shut down M. Like, no M. And he was from Chicago. So, the paradigm shift too. Devastation. And in this mess, we got the first large capital inflow, petrodollars, from the guys who were embargoing oil to us. This is the ultimate irony on this planet. Follow the money. Remember, follow the money. So those guys who were jumping up and down, burning the American flag, and jumping up and down, burning the American flag, were at the same time sending the money, parking it here. So we got the first petrodollar inflow, because we paid 4 times the amount for fuel. That money almost never even left the country. It stayed here. That's the irony of this whole thing. Questions, comments? How are you folks doing? So paradigm shift 2, and I'm going to show you the identification problem. How can both models exist? I'm going to show you that. We've kind of talked about it. So here we are, those guys were going, all right, Keynes is gone, and suddenly the whole planet, or at least America, Margaret Thatcher had come up with this, said, let's go with this model, and let's try and shift it. Questions, comments?
How easy is it to shift it? I mean,
Wow.
Innovations just don't happen like that, right?
Beautiful, beautiful. Did you hear the question? Me too.
Like, how easy is it to innovate or shift the...
So his question is, you know, for this world, you can increase M in an afternoon, right? You can increase J 6 months, 8 months, like, Here is productivity, innovation. I mean, you can't press a button. Listen very carefully now. This is a long-term structural model. There are no buttons to press here. In fact, this model is characterized by an absence of buttons. This model, there are buttons, M, G. M is the quick one. This model is characterized by government backing away, leaving you alone. It's a long-term structural model. It took Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, Daddy, George Bush Sr., then Bill Clinton, then W, George Bush Jr., and so on, to And Bill Clinton's time, finally, the whole thing comes together after all these successions of deregulations, perfect ecosystem, and boom, you get the internet. So there's no quick response here. That's why when 9/11 happened, Mittal, on the next day, George W. Bush becomes a high priest Keynesian. Because these guys had no response to it. For the Keynes, for the 9/11 shock, you need G. You need government to say, I'm in charge, and I'm going to spend G, and I'm going to rebuild airlines, insurance, we need G. So 9/11 warranted a Keynesian response. In this, there is, in the supply side model, in that toolbox, they have nothing for an exogenous shock. Nothing. Mayo. And so W became a Keynesian. In fact, he hired my friend Greg Mankiw from Princeton to run the model. And Greg Mankiw is such a high priest Keynesian that his dog, and I'm serious, his dog is called Keynes. I'm not kidding you. And remind me, I have a picture of him in my office, in his office, reading my macro book. So I took a picture of me reading his macro book. I'll bring it next
But
time.
in 9/11, like when they increase G, increase M, wouldn't it be like it was supply side model? Wouldn't it just increase inflation?
M, G, sold bonds. You had Greg Mankiw, there is no ambiguity. He is a he's high priest Keynesian. At home, he wears white robes. High priest Keynesian. So that was actually a good thing. Yeah, Greg.
Are the two models like the same once you
Wow.
get past the inflection point there?
So thank you, Greg. Please be very careful. This baby looks like this baby here, right? Be very, very careful. The similarity is only in the verticalness. This one is vertical at Y max, only at Y max, only at full employment. This baby can be vertical at Y low, Y medium, Y high. And you will see next class, in this model here, let me just show you now. Let me erase this. By the way, so do you like this supply side story? No? I'm just curious. You resonating? There, you got some company here. Anyone else here? You liking it? You can't be, there is no, this is one of those deals where you can't be, neutral. I'll never forget, there was a guy in my class called Francis. Seriously, I mean, that's a cool thing. Your kid, it's easy for the kid to learn. And there's no confusion whether it's a first name, last name, just put Francis, And so he never said a word in my whole class till we did supply side. Then he wouldn't stop talking. And he sat in the back, and so people were like, who's this guy in the back? I said, that's Francis. And I meet him at reunions, and I'm going, man, what happened to you? He goes, yeah, Farouk, that was a weird day. What happened is, he went into 7-Eleven, and there was somebody buying wine coolers from food stamps. Because wine coolers apparently is the only alcohol you can get with food stamps. And so Francis lost it completely. And he said, that was my money, professor, because nobody gave me anything. I am here by my pulling up my own socks, shoes, what's the expression?
Bootstraps.
Yeah, bootstraps. Thank you. And so nobody gave me anything. That was my money that this person was using for wine coolers. We don't need G. Look what happens with the fish. I said, what happens with the fish? And he said, where I live, the people with food stamps are buying the Peruvian, what's that?
Chilean sea bass?
Chilean sea bass, thank you. And so I can't even afford it. I'm going, well, look, I don't know about your fish problems, but that was a weird thing. Then he stopped talking. He was so emotional about it. So it was a personal thing. So here, this model is like a hard and cold model. No G, no M. What I was going to ask you is, in this model here, look at this. Do you see any differences between this model and this story here? Some obvious differences with Keynesian. what was happening here in the Keynesian model? Overheating. Sap bubbles, right? High inflation. Do you see any overheating here? No. There is no overheating in this story. Hang on just a second, Dan. And here, this was Y max at full employment, right? Do you see any of that here? There is no Y max. The sky is the limit. Participation rate. Now with the internet, the global economy, now people from Vietnam are doing your taxes, they're reading your radiology. No Y max, no sap bubbles, no overheating. Nothing. So I'm going to take you the next time. Yeah, Dan.
You brought up Adam Smith in the beginning of today's lecture. So in that instance, is the Adam Smith like the government getting out and the privatization or
Yes.
regulation of that?
Absolutely. So here we will see that the government gets out only after then it has set the incentives right. And it cuts out the regulation only after it has set the incentive structure right, because that's the first part of Adam Smith. A good example of Adam Smith, by the way, going back to Zaki's write-up, Zaki said that when he was on guard, speaking of Yom Kippur, when he was a teenager, you're supposed to be on guard duty with two people. And you're not supposed to be reading or looking at any music or radio or anything. So he said, we didn't want to waste our time. So one would be on guard duty, and the other one would be doing what? Can you guess what Zaki was doing? No. Very touching. Studying for his SATs. So in the light, in the little lamp, he would study for the SATs while the other guy would guard, and he would read out in English and they would study together. And then they would take turns, and so, I don't know why I told you this story. Where was I going with this? Incentivize, exactly. Incentivize. And so what you have here is, so in China, thank you. What happened in China when China woke up is that the government said, you got to learn English. Because when China woke up, it was not the China today where Xi Jinping is now saying, the heck with English. Look inside. Read Mao's little red book today. But when China woke up in 1979, it was, everyone needs to know English. We need to blend into the world economy. Those were globalists. Those were enlightened leaders. And so here was their plan for Adam Smith. This much, it costs you like some amount of money to do the English test and to buy the books. However, if you do your test 2 weeks earlier, instead of 6 weeks, do it in 4 weeks, the government refunds you the cost of the test. So here I was having my lunch in the early years, 91, 93, and I forgot my articles, which I had from China Daily on my table. So I went back to the restaurant, and all the waitresses were studying English. So I said, what's going on? They said, we have to do this in, 2 months or whatever, before the deadline, so we can get a refund. And I said, wow, and said, sit, we need your help. I went, and I can't say no, so here I'm trapped. So what does hair-raising experience mean? What is hair-raising? We looked it up in the dictionary, it means hairs going up. What is that? I said, oh. So every day when I was free, I would show up in the afternoon and I bought them some books. They had one book, they tore it up, they were sharing it, so I got them some books, but they all spoke English when it was done. And I was thinking, man, they just deployed Adam Smith here. Here is communist China, it's a textbook example of Adam Smith. They're doing it before the deadline, so they got their refund. But there was enlightenment at the top, unlike the guy we have today.
So what is happening with China? Since they're going inward, are they not having
please
that foresight
understand,
right now?
In the Keynesian world, this story here is great. Stage 1, stage 2 is low-hanging fruit. You build highways, you build dams, you build power plants, airports. That's the easy part. India is doing that. We in America, by the way, could use this. This is the easy part. Then you get into this world here where you are there and you need innovation. You need productivity. You need to get this baby out. You can't just copy and be the the manufacturer of the world. You have to come up with innovation on your own. And that is the hard part. And so there, China is now in that stage too, where they have to now, they've done the low-hanging fruit, they've overdone the low-hanging fruit, they have to figure innovation. We have to do both. Mercifully, we have a lot of room here to do good old-fashioned infrastructure, but as we will see next class, Biden has also have room for innovation in his budget. So he's trying to do a fusion.
No, but my question was by being restrictive, China, like initially you said that they were.
Let's talk China later on at the end of the class. Right now. Any questions about what we've done, folks, so far? What I'm going to show you next time is the identification problem. How can both models exist? And then we were going to look at these questions. How come there's no overheating? How come there is no Y max here? Can you go on forever? What about labor? What about resources? What about innovation when the rest of the world is copying your software and your platforms? How will that work? So I'm going to do all these difficult questions. I'm going to try and be a critic of the supply siders and try to dig holes in it. And we will examine that. And then we will do chapter 11, Friedman Monetary Policy. So, and then I'll think about the last day of the class, short exam, shorter exam, no exam, but let's think about it. So thank you guys. See you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.